for more than 300 years. The golden crown of Varellus sat high on a black stone pedestal in the heart of the alien throne room. It did not move. It did not speak. It simply waited. Every royal heir, every warrior, every noble child had failed to wear it. The moment they touched it, it burned their skin or pushed them back with a flash of golden energy. Some screamed, some fainted. One even died. The crown was alive, not like a human or alien, but in a strange, powerful way. It knew who it wanted, and so, the throne of the Varellian Empire remained empty. Queen Maelari stood before the crown now, her sharp eyes full of pain. She was growing old. Her body was still strong, but her time was almost over. She needed a new ruler to take her place, but the crown refused every chosen one. How many more will you reject? Hush, she whispered to the crown. Is there no one worthy left on this planet? The crown did not answer, but somewhere deep beneath the palace, a man coughed in the dark in the lowest dungeon of the palace. Eli, a human prisoner, lay on the cold stone floor. His back was bruised, his arms were chained. He had not spoken in days. He had come to this alien world during a human-alien war. His ship had crashed. He had fought alone. Then he had been captured and locked away. They called him Animal, Invader, and Lesser Being. But Eli said nothing. He simply waited, just like the crown above, upstairs. The palace priests read the ancient prophecy again and again. When blood fails and stars fall, the crown shall glow for one beyond us all. Some believed it was just a story. Some feared it meant something real, and some began to look at the human prisoner in the dungeon with new eyes. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the palace, a young alien girl named Liara crept into the dungeon. She was the queen's daughter, sharp-minded, curious, and bold. She had heard the rumors about the prisoner, about the crown, about the strange silence in the air every time his name was spoken. Eli sat quietly in his cell when she appeared. Holding a small light, "You're the human," she said softly. Eli looked up slowly. His eyes were tired, but alert. "Do you even understand me?" she asked. He gave a small nod. Liara stepped closer. "Why are you so quiet? Are you afraid?" Eli's voice was hoarse, but steady. "No, just watching." She tilted her head. "Watching what?" Eli's gaze lifted toward the ceiling, toward the crown, many levels above. "The thing that's waiting," he said. Liara blinked. "You know about the crown? I can feel it," he replied. "It's been calling to someone for a long time." She shivered. "It's never called to anyone. It hates us." "No," Eli said. "It doesn't hate. It just hasn't found who it needs." Liara left that night, confused and shaken. But the next morning, something happened. As the sun touched the crown through the glass roof, it pulsed. Once with a soft golden glow. Not bright, but clear, like a heartbeat. Gasps filled the throne room. The high priest fell to his knees. It sensed someone, he said. Someone new. Queen Maelari turned sharply. Who? The priest looked nervous. Perhaps the human. The queen was silent for a long time. Then she gave an order. "Bring him up." Eli was pulled from his cell. Guards chained his hands and forced him into the light for the first time in months. His clothes were torn. His hair was long. But he stood straight. When he entered the throne room, everyone went quiet. He did not look afraid. He looked calm. The crown sat just a few steps away. "No tricks," the queen said coldly. "Touch it. Let us see." Eli said nothing. He stepped forward. 1 step, 2, 3. Then the crown glowed. Not weak this time, not faint. A bright golden light filled the room. Priests dropped their scrolls. Guards stepped back. The queen's mouth opened slightly. Eli reached out. His fingers touched the base of the crown. No burn. No push. No pain. The crown stayed still. Then it hummed, a sound like music, deep and ancient. A sound the palace had not heard in centuries. And in that moment, everyone in the room realized the same terrifying truth: the crown had finally chosen. But it had chosen a human. Asterisk, the throne room was silent. The golden crown still glowed. And the human Eli was the only one it allowed to touch. Alien nobles stood frozen. Some looked afraid. Some looked angry. The queen kept her face calm, but her hands trembled. Slightly. This moment was impossible. For 3 centuries, the crown of Virellus had rejected every alien heir. And now, it hummed with power for a filthy, wounded human prisoner. It was an insult. It was a miracle. It was the start of something that could change their entire world. Take him back to his cell. Queen Mallory said at last. Eli was silent as the guards grabbed him. But this time, they didn't push him so hard. And this time, they looked at him with fear. Later that night, Princess Lyara sneaked back into the dungeon again. She had seen it with her own eyes. The crown had glowed for this human. But why? Who was he, really? Eli sat on his cold bed. His chains were still on, but he no longer looked weak. "You touched it," Lyara whispered. "You really touched the crown." Eli didn't speak. She stepped closer. "Do you even know what that means?" He finally looked up. "No, but I felt something. Like the crown was alive, watching me." Lyara sat on the floor across from his cell. "They say only the next ruler of the empire can wear it. But you're not one of us. You're not even supposed to be alive." Eli gave a small smile. "I get that a lot." Lyara tilted her head. "You're not scared, are you?" "No," he said. "But you are." She went quiet. Because he was right in the high tower. Queen Mallory met with her council of elders. Their voices were sharp, full of panic. "This is madness. He's an outsider, a human. The people will revolt if we let him near the throne." The queen raised her hand. "Enough. I saw it with my own eyes. The crown has chosen. But why him?" One elder spat. "Why now?" The high priest stepped forward, holding the ancient prophecy scrolls. "When blood fails and stars fall, the crown shall glow for one beyond us all." "It is clear," the priest said. "Our own blood has failed. He is the one beyond, the human." Down in the dungeon, Lyara was still talking to Eli. "Where are you from?" she asked. "Earth," he said simply. "Blue sky, green forests, loud cities." "Why did you come here?" "I didn't mean to. I was a soldier. My ship crashed during the war." Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You fought us." "I was following orders," Eli said. "Just like your soldiers, just like your queen." There was no anger in his voice, just truth. "And now?" she asked. He leaned forward. "Am I tired of fighting?" The next morning, something strange happened. A group of alien children, gathered outside the palace walls, whispering and pointing. They had heard the rumors. "Is it true?" one boy asked. "A human touched the crown." A girl gasped. They weren't angry. They weren't afraid. They were curious. And that's when the queen made a surprising decision. Let the people see him. A stage was built in the center of the capital. Eli was brought there still in chains, but no longer hidden. Thousands came to see him. Some threw things. Some shouted. But most just watched. In silence, Lyara stood beside her mother, watching the human closely. "Speak," the queen said to him. "Let them hear you." Eli stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but strong. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "I didn't come here to rule, or to fight again. But your crown chose me. I don't know why. Maybe it saw something inside me that I don't even see myself." He looked around. "I know I'm not one of you, but I know pain. I know war. I know what it means to lose everything. Maybe that's what your world needs. Not someone born to lead, but someone who knows what it means to fall." The crowd was silent. Then from the back, a voice rose. A young voice. "I believe him." Then another. And another. Within moments, a small cheer broke out. Not loud, not strong, but real. That night, the queen stood at the window, watching the stars. Liara came to her side. "You're really going to let him stay?" "I don't trust him," Maelari said. "But the crown does." "And you always said," Liara whispered, "the crown never lies." The queen closed her eyes. "The world is changing," she said, softly, "and I fear he may be our only hope." Far below, in his new cell, Eli sat quietly once more, but this time his chains were loose, and outside his bars, fresh blanket had been left. A silent message. You are no longer just a prisoner. You are something more. The golden crown no longer stayed silent. Ever since it glowed for the human prisoner, its hum could be felt through the palace walls. A soft, steady sound like a heartbeat. Some said it was alive. Others said it was waking up, but one thing was clear. It had chosen Eli. Not everyone was happy. Inside the high tower of the royal palace, a group of alien nobles sat in secret. Their faces were angry, their eyes full of fire. "We cannot allow this," growled Lord Can, the head of the Warcast. "He is not our kind." "He is an enemy," hissed Lady Jorah. "He killed our people in the war." "The people cheer for him," another said. "Even the children." "The queen is hesitating. She's listening to the prophecy." Lord Cain slammed his fist on the table. "Then we remove the problem. Quietly." Down in the training courtyard, Princess Liara watched Eli from behind a pillar. He stood in the middle of the arena, breathing deeply. His chains were gone. His wounds were healing. His back was straight. He was no longer just a prisoner. The guards no longer touched him. They nodded when he passed. Servants brought him food without being told. He was being treated like royalty. But he was still alone. Liara stepped forward, holding 2 practice staffs. "You ever trained with one of these?" she asked. Eli turned. He smiled faintly. "Once, long time ago." She tossed him a staff. He caught it easily. "Show me," she said. They began to train slowly, back and forth, step by step. At first, Liara was faster. Her movements were sharp, elegant, trained since childhood. But Eli was different. His style was rough, quiet, full of experience. He didn't waste energy. He waited for openings. Strike, block, pivot. They moved like a dance. No words. Just the rhythm of wood on wood. After a long moment, Liara dropped her staff and sat down, breathing hard. "You don't fight like a soldier," she said. Eli shrugged. "I fought because I had to, not because I wanted to." She looked at him. "Then why did the crown choose you?" "I don't know," he said softly. "But I think it's not looking for a warrior. It's looking for someone who understands pain." Later that night, in a quiet hallway, Queen Maelari met with the high priest. "He is winning hearts," the priest said. "Even the young ones follow him through the palace." Maelari nodded slowly. "The people see him as a symbol. A new beginning, but the nobles will not allow it. Lord Can is already gathering support in secret." "I know," she whispered. "I feel the storm coming." The storm came faster than anyone expected. The next day, Eli was walking through the palace gardens with Liara when the sky turned black. Dozens of soldiers from the warcast surrounded them, blasters aimed, swords drawn. Lord Cain stepped forward, armor shining red under the sky. "The human will not rule us," he said coldly. "The crown is mistaken." Eli raised his hands slowly. "You really want to do this? You're not one of us," Cain growled. "You'll never be one of us." Liara stepped in front of Eli. "You'll have to kill me first." Cain paused. "So be it." But before he could move, a deep, powerful light burst from the sky. The crown, still resting in the throne room, had reacted. It glowed brighter than ever before, golden light shooting through the palace like lightning. The ground shook. Walls trembled. Ken's men dropped their weapons, screaming in pain. Some were thrown backward by invisible force. Others froze in place. Only Eli and Liara stood tall in the center of it all. Eli looked down at his hands. They were glowing faintly like he had become part of the crown itself. Back in the throne room, the queen arrived just as the light faded. She stared at Eli. Her voice was quiet. "You didn't fight back." "I didn't need to," Eli said. "The crown did." She stepped forward slowly. "You still don't want to lead, do you?" Eli looked her in the eyes. "No, but I will, if it means stopping more of this." Later that night, Liara brought him to the top of the palace tower. The stars stretched endlessly above them. "I was scared," she said quietly, "that you'd be like the others. Cold, proud." Eli looked at her, and now she smiled softly. "Now I think the crown made the right choice." But far away, in the outer cities, a fire was already burning. Lord Cain was not dead, and in the shadows, he was gathering rebels, nobles, warriors, and old enemies who refused to bow to a human king. They would strike soon, and this time, the crown might not be enough to stop them. The flames danced high, inside the ancient trial chamber stone. Pillars glowed with strange light. The walls were marked with burned scars from hundreds of years ago. This was not a place for speeches. Not for politics. It was for one thing only, truth. No lies could survive here. No false heirs could pass. Only the truly chosen could endure the test of flame. Queen Maylari stood at the gate of the chamber, her face pale. "Are you sure he's ready?" asked the high priest beside her. She didn't answer at first. Then she said, "The crown may have accepted him, but our people will not. Not until he proves it with fire." In the training hall, Eli stared at the long path ahead. It was made of black stone, but cracks ran across it, tiny lines glowing with heat. At the other end stood the trial chamber, its doors burning with golden fire. He had seen war. He had faced death, but this was different. Beside him, Princess Liara stood quietly. She had helped him train for this. She had read the old texts with him. She had brought him food, hope, and even a small laugh or two. "You don't have to do this," she whispered. "I do," Eli replied. "If I don't, they'll never follow me." She looked down. The flames. They test your soul, not just your body. If you're not meant to rule, the fire will destroy you. Eli gave a small smile. "Then let's find out." As the sun touched the horizon, the people of Varellus gathered around the trial grounds. High walls kept them at a distance, but they could see the fire rising behind the glass barriers. Priests lit torches. Drums echoed in the distance. This was more than a trial, it was a ceremony of fate. Eli stood before the gate. His clothes were simple. No armor. No crown. Only truth could walk through flame. The queen stepped forward. "Eli of Earth, you stand before the sacred trial. Do you accept it freely? I do. Then enter, and let the fire know you. The gates opened. Heat hit Eli like a wall. But he didn't flinch. Step by step, he entered. At first, it was just warmth. Then, it became pain. Each step forward burned more than the last. His skin began to sweat. His vision blurred. The fire whispered to him not in words, but in feelings. Regret, guilt, fear. Images danced in the flames past. His commander shouting orders. Civilians caught in the crossfire. His ship crashing. His team dying one by one. The silence of the cell where he waited to die. And then, Lyra's face. Her eyes full of questions. Her hand reaching through the bars. He heard a voice deep and old, not in sound, but in his mind. Do you walk for power or peace? Eli fell to his knees. The fire licked his back. His skin cracked. But he didn't turn back. I walk, so no one else has to. Outside, the people saw the fire rise high into the sky. Some gasped, some prayed, some turned away, thinking he had failed. Even Queen Mallory closed her eyes. But then a sound. Not a scream. Not pain, but a pulse. The same hum as the crown. A golden light burst from the chamber. The fire turned from red to gold, then to white. The ground shook, and then silence. The doors opened. Eli stepped out slowly. His body was burned, but not broken. His eyes were calm, and in his hand, a flame. But it did not burn him. It curled around his fingers like a living thing. Like the crown itself had followed him into the trial. The high priest fell to his knees. He passed. The fire accepted him. The crowd outside began to cheer, first in confusion, then in joy. The human lives. He passed the trial of flame. He is the one. Later, in the healer's chambers, Lyra sat beside Eli, wrapping bandages around his arm. You're lucky to be alive, she whispered. Eli chuckled softly. Feels like I left part of myself in that fire. She paused, then said, maybe. That's what it wanted. He looked at her. Why are you helping me? Because I think you're not just here to rule, she said quietly. You're here to fix what we broke a long time ago. He didn't answer. But he reached out and took her hand. She didn't pull away. Far away. In the Black Mountains, Lord Can watched the fire in the sky. He clenched his fists. So, the human passed. Good. His second-in-command looked confused. Good, Ken's eyes burned. Now, we don't just kill a prisoner. We kill a king. The war begins. Tonight? Night fell heavy on the Varelian capital, but the city did not sleep. Since Eli passed the trial of flame, the people could not stop talking. In homes, markets, and schools, they spoke of the human who walked through fire and lived. Some called him a hero. Some whispered he was a danger. But deep in the shadows, rebellion had begun. In a dark cave beyond the mountains, Lord Cain stood before a crowd of angry nobles and soldiers. Firelight flickered over their faces, and in their eyes, rage burned brighter than the flames. He fooled the fire, Can shouted. But he cannot fool us. A woman in green armor stood beside him. The queen has lost her mind. She allows a human to walk our sacred halls. Can lifted a black blade, ancient and sharp. If our blood means nothing to the crown anymore, then we spill new blood. The rebels cheered. Their plan was clear. Strike the palace. Kill the human. Take the crown by force. Inside the palace walls, Eli stood on a balcony, looking down at the city below. His burns were healing. His back still ached. But his heart was heavier than his wounds. So many eyes were on him now. Some full of hope. Some full of hate. He didn't want to be king. He never did. But the crown had chosen him. And now everything had changed. "Can't sleep?" Liara asked gently, stepping beside him. Eli smiled weakly. "You can tell." "I can always tell," she said. "You stare at the stars like they're going to answer you." "Maybe they will," Eli said. "They brought me here, didn't they?" Liara sighed. "You've done more in weeks than most rulers in a lifetime. The people are starting to believe in you." "But the nobles aren't," Eli said, "and they're the ones with power." She nodded. "Yes, and some of them are meeting in secret." Eli turned to her. "You know where?" She looked down. "No, but I can feel it in the air, like a storm is coming." Eli was quiet for a moment, then said, "Then we better build shelter before it hits." The next morning, Queen Maelari called a council. The great hall was filled with high voices and louder fears. The people trust the human too quickly. He passed the trial. What more proof do we need? Our ancestors would never bow to an outsider. Maelari stood up, her voice cold and sharp. "Our ancestors are gone. We live now. Atia, and now. The crown has chosen." Suddenly, a messenger rushed in, his face pale. "Your Majesty? The northern wall was attacked last night. Scouts are dead." The gate was left open from inside. Gasps filled the room. "The rebellion?" the queen whispered. "They're here," Eli said. "They're already inside." That night, guards doubled at every gate. Lights stayed on in every tower. The air was thick with fear. Eli sat alone in the throne room. The crown sat on its pedestal, glowing gently, like it knew what was coming. He stood in front of it. "I never asked for you," he said quietly. "I never asked for any of this." The crown hummed softly. Eli closed his eyes. "I was just a soldier. I've made mistakes. Lost friends. Hurt people, so why me?" A single word echoed in his mind. "Because you remember." Suddenly, the palace shook. Boom! Smoke rose from the western wall. Guards shouted, horns blared. Screams echoed down the halls. The rebellion had begun. Lord Can and his rebel army broke through the palace gates, fire and steel in hand. They moved like shadows, silent, deadly. Their target was clear. The throne room, the crown, and the human King Liara ran through the halls. Searching for Eli, she found him standing in the center of the grand hall, unarmed, staring at the door. "You need to run," she cried. "No," Eli said calmly. "If I run now, I'll never be more than a prisoner with a crown." She grabbed his arm. "They'll kill you." He looked at her gently. "Then let them try." The doors burst open. Can stormed in, sword raised. Behind him, 20 armed rebels. End of the line, human. Can snarled. Eli didn't move. "You don't have to do this." "Yes, I do," Khan said. "Because if I don't, everything we believe in dies." Eli nodded slowly. "Then come prove it." Before Khan could strike, the crown lifted from its pedestal. It floated into the air, spinning, glowing. Humming louder and louder, light burst across the hall, golden and blinding dot. Every rebel froze. Their weapons dropped. Their knees buckled. Cain screamed, falling to the floor, covering his face. And when the light faded, the crown sat on Eli's head. Not shaking, not resisting, but resting as if it had always belonged there. The rebels were silent. Then one of them dropped his sword and knelt. Another followed. Then another. Until all of them bowed. Even Cain. The queen entered the hall, eyes wide. "It's over," she whispered. "No," Eli said, stepping forward. "It's just beginning." The throne room was quiet now. The battle was over. The rebels had bowed. and the golden crown rested on Eli's head, glowing softly like a heartbeat that had finally found rhythm. But peace didn't come with the silence. Instead, the palace halls felt heavier, full of questions that had no answers yet. Later that night, Queen Maori stood alone in the garden, watching the twin moons rise. Her hands were folded behind her back, but her shoulders looked tired. Eli approached slowly. "You knew this would happen," he said. The queen didn't turn around. "I knew something would happen. I didn't expect this." "You don't." "Trust me," he said quietly. She finally looked at him. Her voice was steady, but soft. "I trust the crown. I don't know if I trust the man wearing it." Eli didn't argue. "I don't know if I trust myself either." There was a long pause between them. The wind rustled the silver-leafed trees. "Then why stay?" she asked. "Why not take your freedom and leave this world behind?" Eli looked up at the stars. "Because your people deserve more than war. And maybe, so do mine." The next morning, the entire city gathered in the Grand Plaza. A massive platform had been built. Surrounded by banners from every province, Eli stood at the center, the crown on his head, robes of deep blue across his shoulders, but no weapon. At his side, he looked out over the crowd aliens of every caste, every age. Even the children stood still, eyes wide. Waiting, he spoke simply, slowly, in their language, a sign of respect he had practiced for days. "I was your prisoner," he began, "a cave from a war. I saw your people as enemies." Silence. "But now I see your world, your families, your pain, your hopes." He paused, then said, "Your crown chose me. Not because I'm stronger, not because I'm smarter, but maybe because I've lost too much to want more pain." His voice grew stronger. "I don't want to rule you. I want to stand with you." He turned to the queen, then to Princess Liara. "But I will not do it alone." A soft murmur ran through the crowd as Eli stepped aside and reached out his hand. Liara stepped forward slowly, unsure. Everyone stared. Was this a speech? A symbol? A proposal? Eli looked at her. "I can't lead your people without knowing them. I can't understand them without someone who walks beside me, who speaks their heart." Her eyes widened. "You want me as your co-ruler?" He nodded. "Not just for politics, for peace, for rebuilding something better." She smiled, blinking back tears. "Then, yes." The crowd erupted in cheers. Some wept, some fell to their knees. For the first time in history, a human and an alien royal would rule side by side in the Queen's chamber later. Mailari watched from a distance as Liara sat beside Eli, helping him sign the royal charter with a trembling hand. "You're still shaking," Liara teased. "It's not the writing," Eli smiled. "It's the weight of what we're starting." Mailari walked in quietly. "Then let me help carry it." They both looked at her in surprise. "I don't understand the crown's choice," she said, "but I know my daughter, and I've never seen her look this alive." She stepped closer. "So I will support this new rule, and may it bring the peace we failed to find." Eli stood and bowed to her, not as a ruler, but as a man who respected the journey. But peace has its price. In the far reaches of the galaxy, a signal was sent, a coded message from the rebel survivors, those who escaped the palace and refused to kneel. It reached a dark fleet. Massive ships, silent engines, red lights blinking like eyes in the void. A new enemy. Not of Virelis, not of Earth, but one that hated both. The message was simple. The human has the crown. Virelis bows to him. He is uniting them. We must act. That night, Eli walked the royal halls alone. The stars shone through the windows, bright and endless. Liara joined him, barefoot and quiet, still thinking. She asked. Always, he replied. She took his hand. You made your choice today. A big one. He looked at her. It wasn't hard. You were the easy part. She smiled. Then what scares? You. He looked back at the stars. That someone, somewhere, is watching. And they won't like what we've done. The skies above Virelis darkened, not from clouds, but from ships, massive, silent, black like ink. They moved without sound, no warning, no message. Just cold purpose. Across the capital, people stared at the sky with wide eyes. They had never seen anything like it. And in the palace, Eli stood at the highest tower. Watching them come, they're not from Earth, he said quietly. Liara stood beside him. And they're not ours. The queen joined them. Her voice was grim. I've heard of these ships. In old war records, the Draxery, world burners. They kill both sides. They want only silence. Eli clenched his fists. Then we give them a reason to speak. The palace went into lockdown. Soldiers moved to the gates. Energy shields rose. Citizens were sent to shelters, but everyone knew shields wouldn't last. The Draxery had weapons built to erase cities in the war room. Leaders of all castes wore. Sky, sea, flame gathered. Even those who once hated Eli now looked to him. He stood before them, not as a prisoner. Not even as a king, but as a human with fire in his eyes. I know fear, he said. I know loss, but I also know something stronger, hope. No. He looked around. You gave me a second chance. Let me give you the same. We fight together. The Draxery landed without sound. Their leader, tall and wrapped in silver-black armor, stepped into the open field outside the city. No face. Just a glowing red eye in the center of the helmet. A voice echoed across the capital, spoken not by mouth, but inside every mind. You are not one. You are not pure. Your crown unites what should remain divided. We will fix this mistake. Eli stepped onto the battlefield alone. No sword, no armor. Just the crown on his head. He faced the Draxery leader. I didn't unite for power, Eli said loudly. I did it for peace. The Draxery leader raised a hand. Red energy gathered in his palm. Then die with your peace. The blast shot forward like a cannon of pure death. But just before it hit, a golden shield erupted from Eli's chest, the crown defending him. From the sky, Liara flew down on her glider wings, firing bolts of energy at the Draxery soldiers. Behind her, hundreds of warriors joined the fight. Not just aliens, not just humans, but both. Fighting side by side, Eli picked up a fallen staff and charged. The battle shook the earth. Flames lit the sky. Blades clashed. Lives were lost, but something new was born that day: unity. For every soldier who fell, to rose in their place. At the heart of the chaos, Eli and Liara fought back to back, one with fire, one with flight. They moved as one, protecting, striking. Standing dot, and when the Draxery leader fell to his knees, his red eye flickering, Eli stepped forward. You said unity was a mistake, he said. He reached out and pressed his hand to the Draxery's helmet. But today, even your kind learns what it means to be chosen. Golden light flashed, and the Draxery army vanished into silence. The battle was over. The capital was damaged. But standing, and Eli, covered in ash and wounds, walked slowly to the heart of the city. The crown glowed softly on his head, not bright, but warm, content. People gathered around him, silent. Then, one by one, they knelt. And this time, no one forced them. They knelt because they believed. A week later, in a grand ceremony under the open sky, Eli stood on the rebuilt throne platform. Liara stood beside him as partner. not just in ruling, but in every breath of this new life. Queen Malari stepped forward, holding a carved symbol half of Earth's flag, half of Varellus. "This is yours now," she said. "May you never forget where you came from, and where you now belong." Eli accepted it with both hands. Later that evening, as the stars returned to the sky, Liara and Eli sat quietly on the palace roof. "Do you still feel like a prisoner?" she asked. He smiled. "No, I feel like I've finally been set free." She leaned on his shoulder. "What now?" Eli looked at the stars. "Now we build a world where no one is called lesser, where no child hides, where crowns choose not by blood, but by heart." And above them, the golden crown shimmered one last time, not as a weapon, not as a symbol, but as a promise.